Hey, happy Tuesday. We are back. Another episode, Go FUD Yourself. And today, Kiara's back in the saddle. What's going on? You made it.
Hi.
Made
You
it
know, I
home.
stopped by the ETH Denver venue yesterday while they were cleaning up, and there were still a lot of the hackers there because they got judged on Sunday, and then they went and had a bunch of socials while people were cleaning up at the venue. It was super weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
They just want to
turns out
ride that high forever, you know?
Monday's the day. Did you get a bunch of free stuff that all the projects left behind?
No, there's no projects. There's just the hacker. It was interesting.
And no one left anything. Oh, Ascending Man is all over us already.
Oh, yeah,
Bitcoin
he's
all-time
here for
high
it.
today. Whoop, whoop.
Well, as he knows, as Ascending Man noticed, we're going to talk about Bitcoins. We've been talking about ETH and ETH Denver for days. I feel like for like 2 weeks. And so today we're just going to focus in on some of those Bitcoin maxis, see what's going on, see why it matters to us. That's it. It's just Bitcoin day.
Bitcoin Day. I love Bitcoin Day. I also love that Ascending Man is excited about 69,420.
I think that's a very
Bitcoin.
reasonable, mature number to be excited about.
I mean, I'm excited about it, so you can't blame the guy. Okay, our friends at Last L2 are the merch sponsor for today. I'm a fan. Good friend of ours, Andy Boyan, is involved. So if you're jumping on the bandwagon of all the L2 hype, Last L2, they're doing some really cool stuff. I won't do it justice by explaining it myself. So maybe we'll have Andy on one day to chat about it or something.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But anyways, shout out to Last L2. They also had the best Zap banners of all time.
Yeah, they were really cool.
Literally the best Zap banner of all time. Actually, so good that on the pod, I'm going to look it up on my phone and tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to play the video because that's weird.
The video?
Yeah.
We have a video? Oh, that video. No, wait. So we're just talking all things Bitcoin, right? Is that the deal? Okay, fine. Yeah. Play the video. All right, we're back doing things out of order today. I'm messing shit up as usual. Okay.
Hey, I lied. We are going to talk about ETH Denver briefly.
We're going to talk about ETH Denver briefly. But first, Last L2. Okay, ready?
You find it?
Tell me this isn't the best catchphrase of all time. It's not how hard you pump. It's how long you last. Boom.
Terrible.
It's awesome. And they had it on like those pull-up Zap banners, and they were doing like pop-up engagements all over. It was hilarious. Super awesome.
Well, there were a lot of L2s at ETH Denver, like so many.
Yeah. Well, Colin and I talked a little bit about that yesterday. It was
they said so. John Powler, who is the head of ETH Denver, he said that there were over 12 L2s and about 8 L1s. So that's a lot. But you know what else there was? A lot of Bitcoin maxis, a lot of Sol maxis, and a lot of Polkadot maxis. And it's interesting that they chose to come to a Bitcoin conference or to an ETH conference.
I think this is kind of indicative of like the space as a whole, but ETH has kind of become synonymous with blockchain in some ways. So I feel like just saying an ETH conference is all things smart contracts. That's at least what all these other L1s are doing. I mean, Solana has, generally they have their own event once a year. Avalanche has an event, a major event once a year, and then side events at all of these things. Polkadot, last time I checked, they were doing a thing every year. Cosmos has a conference every year. Yeah. Like a lot of the major L1s have it, but most people still attend the ETH ones. It's really a good mixing pot of everybody. So,
well, since we're ETH people, you know, being at ETH Denver, we obviously are like, oh, it's so cool that all of these other groups are coming. How are they going to be compatible with ETH? But a lot of other individuals, including Powler, think that they're coming to capitalize and transition users over to their own chain. Yeah, and remember the Solana booth? It was super cool. So Solana had this huge booth, like huge, that had seating and presentations. They had several presentations throughout the day. And it was honestly just onboarding people onto Sol, which is a great idea because you already have people who are educated on how to use the space. So why not move them over to another chain?
Yeah, I mean, these conferences are all about businesses, new businesses trying to attract new customers, old businesses trying to retain and attract and engage customers. And if you're a customer or if you're a user, it's about learning about new protocols and new opportunities and new technologies. And so for that reason, I think I mean, everybody's incentives are aligned there. The users want to see new things. The OGs want to show that they're better than the new guys, and the new guys want to show that they're better than the old guys. And everybody's trying to get new users, obviously, and more volume and more activity and more excitement. I actually don't mind it. I like that there was like a BNB area, a core area, or, I mean, base area, Solana area, Polkadot area. It's kind of cool. Near was there. There's a lot of Arbitrum, Optimism, ZK Sync. There's a bunch of ZK stuff there. Crypto growth isn't bad. No, it's awesome. Crypto growth is great.
Okay, so that's ETH Denver. We've talked about ETH Denver for literally weeks. But that means that we haven't been talking about Bitcoin. So some of this news is just within the last week or so, but it all kind of accumulates into one wonderful narrative, which is that number go up. JD, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really insanely surprising to me, honestly, but the Bitcoin ETF that BlackRock runs has hit 10 billion in market cap, meaning $10 billion have been spent acquiring Bitcoin, which explains, as you can imagine, some of the price appreciation of late. Of 10 billion is a good amount. But it's not just that 10 billion. It would take a hell of a lot more than 10 billion to move the market the way it has been. But that's one of the bigger narrative momentum drivers, and everybody else just kind of piles on. You get all these algorithmic platforms that chase directional changes. So when everything's going up, they're piling on too, and it makes it even more. And then people are buying perps and using leverage, and they're adding more and more and more kindling to the fire. And here we are.
Okay. Now, I think it's important to note, though, that this is the fastest ETF to ever hit this market cap.
Man, you're stealing my thunder here. But yes, really exciting. It's the fastest one to ever hit 10 billion, of course. I think for obvious, at least to me, for obvious reasons. This is one of those asset classes that I think a lot of people are aware of and has been in the news and has been, discussed ad nauseum for the last couple of years. So it's a very well understood opportunity. And there's a meaningful difference between the ease of use of an ETF and the complexity of having to buy Bitcoin. A lot of people were saying, why would I buy an ETF? I could just go buy Bitcoin. Right. Yep. You could just go buy Bitcoin. But the people that don't have Bitcoin currently, which is the majority of the world, don't want to just go buy Bitcoin and have to deal with Bitcoin chain and wallets and all this other crap, ledgers, etc. They just want to say, hey, I just want this to be in my retirement account. Like, I just want this to be part of my IRA. I want to give you $1,000 a month, and I want it to end up in Bitcoin. And that's what these ETFs are all about. What's exciting about this is obviously it's a good sign for the SEC that this was a product that people actually wanted. There's obviously a lot of people using it. And hopefully, this is the first time I'm not going to be fuddy about this, but hopefully that informs their decision on the ETH ETF a little bit. But we'll see.
You did have a pretty easy transition into some of the criticism that Bitcoin ETFs are getting, which is that it's still kind of hard to join if your investment agency hasn't elected to have a Bitcoin ETF. So now are you diversifying by agency? What does that look like? So small RIAs like Carson Group are approving these Bitcoin ETFs, while others that are larger like Savant Wealth Management are cautious, saying that they want more evidence before they allow their retail users to invest. And I don't know, I think this is pretty interesting because this is the whole ethos of DeFi, is that you should be able to do what you want with your money. So
yeah, the gatekeeping, this is at the, and this is super common in finance traditionally, right? You get, most of these companies have proprietary products, and then they also can offer, many of them can offer third-party products. And obviously they make more money off proprietary products. They're always trying to push people to these proprietary items, I suppose. And there's always this weird dance that's done. Like, how soon are we going to support other assets, other asset classes, and so on? And so you're going to get, obviously, your large, more sophisticated asset managers, BlackRock, Fidelity, some of those guys that are obviously going to lean right into the ETF. They've got big client bases, sophisticated client bases that are into it. And then I think you're going to see kind of the smaller institutions, your smaller advisors, your smaller kind of ma financial advisors and brokerage houses and so on. I think they're just going to be slow to open up exposure to it, probably because they don't understand it. Their parent company hasn't done a ton of research on it, I'm assuming, because they weren't applying for an ETF or anything. So there's going to be I think there's going to be a relatively slow adoption curve. Having said that, I mean, I know a lot of people in my personal life that are buying the ETF, both in Canada and in the US, and I have not heard that this is a problem.
Good.
Everybody that I know that's wanted to get the Bitcoin ETF has been able to do it at their existing institution so far. Now, that sample size is small, so don't take that to the bank. We're talking like
good anecdote. Yeah,
we're talking like 5 to 7 people.
So we're seeing a lot of number go up.
Yeah,
we're seeing actually in the last 24 hours, the highest that Bitcoin reached was almost 69 from what I glanced at. So that's pretty cool. Right now it's about 64. Also great. But what's interesting is that this price bump and the ETF 10 billion is not necessarily being reflected in what's going on with mining. So yes, we're seeing prices go up. Yes, we're seeing a lot of people be really interested, but there's some mixed fortunes in terms of mining where they are, well, as we talked about last week with Biden, there's the Emergency Investigations Act. So some people are suffering from that. Some people are just not being able to mine as quickly. For some, it's become way more expensive to mine in terms of energy. So I don't know. What do you think about, it's kind of like number go up, but mining is so critical to Bitcoin number.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kind of complicating factors on this one. I mean, obviously, well, there's a lot of different things that I think impact this. The halving is a big one. The difficulty obviously may change based on whatever experience we have with the halving. But I mean, in theory, your reward for doing the same amount of mining is literally cut in half effective of the halving. And the reason that that's usually, a momentum building event is because in order for miners to stay above water, the price has to go up generally to make it so that they can still make decent profits. So I think there's like kind of a whole bunch of different forces conflating at the same time that are causing this kind of maybe lull in mining. Everybody in anticipation of Bitcoin going up over the last little bit was already investing in mining outfits. A lot of them. There's some regulatory and environmental potential headwinds. Not entirely sure. Biden's been saber rattling a little bit on it, and some of the states have been saber rattling a little bit on it. So I mean, I'm not sure. I think this is a whole lot to do about nothing, to be honest.
Yeah.
The price has gone up, which is what we need, so miners can feel a little bit more confident that they're going to be able to pay the bills. But if energy prices keep rising, if the regulatory pressure keeps happening, that'll be a problem.
We do have something that happened in the exact opposite vein as well, though, where there was actually a record hit in terms of block mining. So two sides of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's obviously it's obviously exciting that it's definitely picking up to the fact that we're getting to yet another halvening, and it's like a real thing, and we're still talking about it, and the space is still growing is really exciting. Maybe let's set this marathon thing up a little bit.
I thought you were going to.
I wasn't going to, but essentially, Marathon, which is a leading mining company, achieved a milestone in Bitcoin mining by producing a record-breaking block of 3.99 megabytes, marked as block number 832,849. This block, significantly larger than usual, contained only 7 transactions, but carried significance as it was linked to an anticipated runestone airdrop, an ordinals project led by Leonidas, the host of the Ordinals show. This event marks a significant advancement in blockchain technology and highlights the growing interest in projects like Ordinals within the crypto community. Do you see this as a massive positive?
Honestly, not really. Just to be really funny and FUD myself live, like I kind of don't see it as a huge positive because it's a little bit, I don't want to say it's as strong as market manipulation, but it's like, oh, people who are already involved are able to be involved further. Like, I don't know. It's just a little bit shmishmo for me.
Yeah. So I don't find this as exciting. I think it's interesting to see that we're finding ways to increase contract capacity and transaction capacity on Bitcoin, obviously, to be able to pack more data payload into a block is obviously interesting. The other challenge in what this says to me, though, is that's a whole block with only 7 transactions in it.
Right.
And the network is already slow, painfully slow, and is getting worse and worse, of course, because of activity, which is what is to be expected. I think we're seeing some interesting solutions to that. Core, Lightning Network, there's other kind of L2s or Bitcoin adjacent protocols that are connecting into Bitcoin block space and finding ways to efficiently do that. But I'm not sure that this is that exciting. Like that one project, one airdrop took up a whole block. Cool. Yeah. Awesome. It's awesome in one way that we've found ways to pack that much payload into one block. But the flip side of that is what does that do? If we all try to increase our blocks and the payload to that size, I mean, it's going to take you 5 days to finalize a Bitcoin transaction.
Well, and then after the halvening, maybe, double that.
And not to mention the cost of gas would be astronomical, obviously, because it's supply demand, right? So anyways, cool on one sense. I think this was meant to be a positive article, but I immediately think, holy crap, this is like reminiscent of the old gas wars days on Ethereum 100%. When like things just went bananas because of farming. So anyways.
Well, that's why we run the FUD show, because we can't find joy in anything.
We like to talk shit about everything that's happening.
Let's talk a little bit about where Bitcoin is actually sitting, because as you and I have talked about, there's a lot of retail investors now who maybe have small fractions of a Bitcoin, but who's holding big Bitcoin? Have you heard of the Mr. 100?
I haven't.
Okay, so Mr. 100 has been accumulating Bitcoin since November 2022 and now has over 3.2 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is about 54,000. This whale's identity sparks speculation potentially belonging to an investment fund or a large bank associated with Bitcoin ETFs, but that basically can't be proven. Transactions from this wallet have been observed on Binance, KuCoin, other popular exchanges, ruling out U.S. government involvement, which is important because the next one's the government. So what do you think about somebody holding this huge amount of coin? I mean, obviously, it's probably an institution, but what kind of institution, and how does this impact the market?
I mean, again, we're speculating, we're guessing. So 100%. It impacts the market insofar as we accept assumptions. So I'm not sure if this really matters all that much. It could be another exchange. It could be an OTC desk. It could be a market maker. It could be a liquid fund. It could be a hedge fund. It could be a quant firm. It could be a VC fund. It could be anybody. Honestly, it could be an individual that like I know personally individuals that are my age or younger that have $1 billion or more in Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's not impossible. If you were early, I mean, we were talking about this the other day. One of my partners at RBL and I, Hanu, back in the day, mining Bitcoin and selling 1,000 Bitcoin at a time for like $10, mm-hmm. like over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, if you were in the space long enough, it's possible to have enough dry powder. Now, what makes this a little bit more likely to be an institution of sorts is that this all happened since 22. So Someone made a fairly concentrated bet in 22 thinking, okay, the Bitcoin market has dumped as a consequence of FTX and everything else in November 22. And this person this group just started buying at, in theory, the bottom. It could be anybody. Is this a problem? I don't think so, personally. I mean, there's a lot of fairly large exposures of Bitcoin in general. I mean, it's a $1.5 trillion asset. Obviously, there needs to be some big wallets and some medium wallets, small wallets that hold that. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. Having said that, I mean, do we think it's a big deal that BlackRock has 10 billion in their ETF? Could they one day decide to sell it all? Sure. Could all of their users one day decide to withdraw it and that all has to get sold on the market for cash? Sure. That could happen with any asset ever, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Mr. 100, I don't think it's a foreign government, most likely. What I find interesting, actually, is I think they could probably subpoena the U.S. government, could probably subpoena Binance or KuCoin to get that information, account information. But I don't know that.
That's also assuming that the investor is American.
Say it again. Yeah,
that's assuming the investor is American. Yeah.
Or they might just want to rule it out.
Yeah, I suppose.
But I don't think that'll happen. I don't think they care enough. 3.2 billion. Could it make a big difference in the market if somebody market dumped it? Yeah. Would it be catastrophic? No. It would probably just be a blip.
You know who else is holding huge amounts of Bitcoin is the UK government.
The US government held a whole bunch of Bitcoin too, and so did a lot of different places, from the Mt. Gox bankruptcy and all of these other things. Like there's quite a few of these like idle sources of Bitcoin that can be like hugely problematic. There's a few wallets that have essentially never been touched since like the dawn of Bitcoin, and they have some insanely high, and nobody knows who owns them. So I mean, governments have over time secured a lot of these assets. Didn't know how the hell to sell them. It was unfortunate, I think, during FTX and some of these other bankruptcies where they were market selling some of these assets, which seemed to me like the timing was horrible. I mean, it was like when all of this was imploding was when the market was at the bottom, or close to. So anyways, UK government has 4.1 billion. I don't know how long they've had this. They seized it from Chinese citizens apparently in the UK.
So they got access to it in 2021, which implies that they seized it prior to that.
Yeah, but I don't think they had like private keys or anything. Like they made it so that you couldn't do anything with it, but they couldn't actually do it themselves. I mean, Chinese fraud, international money laundering or illegal money transfers from one foreign national to another country. Obviously, that's a big problem. We talk a lot about this with AML and all that. So I understand why this got confiscated, I suppose. But now, what is the UK government going to do with it? Are they in the investment business where they're going to speculate on Bitcoin and hold it and see if they can earn more money on it? I don't think so.
And it's not like it's dust. It's $4.1 billion. So
yeah, it's a good amount. Let's hope that the UK government, if they decide to do something with this, it is smart with their exit strategy. I think, you know, anytime you have to move in or out of a large position, you never do it on the market publicly so everybody can see. I mean, obviously, in theory, they should try to OTC as much of it they can in larger chunks. And, you know, they're going to sell, if they're going to sell on the open market, they're going to do so very strategically in a cost-adjusted way. In theory. I mean, then you get the odd idiot that just literally market dumps. We've had that of some of our tokens. You get someone that dumps like $1 million on an AMM and costs themselves like 15 or 20% in slippage. Like, what? It doesn't make any sense. It harms the market. It harms them. The government, of course, greedy as they are, wants to maximize what they can capture from this whole thing. So that's where we're at.
Okay, before we go, this isn't exactly Bitcoin news, but as number go up, Coinbase go down. Coinbase has gone down with a glitch, I believe, twice in the last 2 weeks, which is a pretty big deal. Some of them were $0 balances on the platform. So you log onto your Coinbase account as a retail user, you look at your portfolio and all your money is gone. So Coinbase is saying that all of the funds are safe, but it has taken them more than 24 hours in one of the instances to go back up. The second instance, it only took them about 20 minutes to go back up.
Yeah, there was one time that it was like most people didn't even notice. I happened to notice because I was trying to do something at that exact moment. And I was like, wait a second, what? I have no money on Coinbase. Right. So it was obviously a problem. I mean, again, I feel like this is an interesting headline because the headline around Coinbase has been number go up for the last little while. And we've talked about this many times on the show. Coinbase stock price is somewhat of a lagging indicator. Market goes up, a lot more activity, a lot more revenue to Coinbase stock goes up. This, in my opinion, is just due to a service outage, which is like pretty standard. I don't know if you remember AT&T in the United States was down for like half a day, like to like millions and millions of customers. I mean, is this something that we're excited about? Of course not. Am I excited that I had a zero balance on Coinbase? Of course not. Did I think for even a split second that I would not get my assets back at some point? No, it's Coinbase. So, I mean, this to me is just somewhat reactionary, speculative movements. I mean, everything has just absolutely omega ripped for the last like few weeks, including TradFi markets, including crypto markets, including Bitcoin, including tech stocks. It's bananas. Like everything needs to chill the F out a little bit and calm down. Otherwise, we're going to be in for one hell of a ride this year, and it might not be exciting.
Yeah.
It might be exciting, just not in the way we hope.
So, okay, one thing that is interesting about this, because you were talking about the stock price, is that Coinbase's global stock has nearly doubled in the last month and is 265% up in the last year. So if it is a lagging indicator, just be aware of that. But people are surprised that there weren't quick stock crashes when the product went down itself also.
Well, it is actually a lagging indicator in a lot of ways, because, I mean, over the last year, profits have been steadily and exponentially increasing. So although us as a market don't normally say, okay, we're in a bull now, super early on, we wait until there's millions of confirmations that we're in a bull. But if you watch Coinbase profits and some of these other things, they're usually pretty good at telling you, okay, I mean, the activity has started. So it's lagging in the sense that it doesn't predict it, but it tells once the activity has started. So I don't know, we'll have to see. I mean, the release of Base obviously was big for Coinbase. Timely also. They launched and ironed out most of the kinks kind of right leading into all the hype of this cycle. So we'll have to see.
To close out, the person who is fuddiest of all funds on Coinbase right now is Warren Buffett, who is basically saying that with Coinbase, this should have really taken them down a notch. It should have been a bigger fiasco. That basically we as degens are way too open to the chaos-like trading of a casino, and that I think he's just trying to like debase the idea of crypto.
He's like really against the idea of crypto, Warren Buffett, and has been forever. We talked about this, I think, a couple of days ago, where he and Musk had a bit of a discussion around a few things crypto related, which is kind of interesting. But I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, a lot of the crypto markets do somewhat resemble gambling, but so do penny stocks, and so do many other, high risk derivatives and other products that people are buying. I mean, there's varying levels of risk, and there's varying levels of risk inside of crypto. I mean, Bitcoin and ETH, you can assess and manage similar to many other large cap assets now that they've become, somewhat cohesive with other major asset classes. So I think certain parts of the industry, of course, it's speculative. I think until we have regulation, it's going to be speculative because we're not tying values to revenues. Yeah, he's not wrong, but I just don't know if it's as big of a problem as they think. Yeah.
Okay, that is your Bitcoin news. We talked about ETH for weeks. We talked about Bitcoin for one day. That's it. That's the roundup.
That is the ratio. Weeks versus day. That's how excited we are.
We have degen news, and we have crypto arms race, which we didn't do last week. So it's gonna be a big week.
Lose a one.
All right, like, share, subscribe. JD.
No, I'm just reading what Ascending Man said, but I'm a little lost. Anyways, yeah, like, share, subscribe. We're live Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, except when we're at conferences, which we're going to do a heck of a lot more of now. And we recorded some really cool episodes that we'll release in the next little bit. Super stoked. But we'll be back tomorrow with another episode, same place, same time. Kiara,
JD,
go find yourself.
Go find yourself.
Later.